If you were laid up at night in the 90s, searching for answers of the most paranormal conspiracies, you probably tuned into one man, Art Bell. From a small desert town, Art Bell's voice traveled across airways, bringing tales of UFOs, secret government missions, and chilling confessions from so-called insiders. His show, Coast to Coast AM, wasn't just entertainment, it was the gateway into the unknown. He listened when no one else would, and sometimes what he heard was terrifying. But on 1997 September 11, one man call to a normal conspiracy radio show brought chills to all his listeners. This is the story of the mysterious caller from Area 51. Now, it is not a new phenomenon for people to call up the show and tell all sorts of shocking stories. In fact, there have been hundreds of people who call the show to share their stories of the unknown. While some of them were fabricated to bring up more attention to the show, some stories were genuine, including the caller who called the show live on the morning of September 11. This brought a whole new perspective and a lot of debates to the show. Although I couldn't find a full clip of the show, I was able to obtain the full recording of the caller. Disclaimer: this calling could be disturbing for some viewers, so proceed with caution, or you can just skip to the timestamp shown on the screen.
Line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Art.
Yes.
Hi. I don't have a whole lot of time.
Well, look, let's begin by finding out whether you're using this line properly or not.
Area 51.
Yeah, that's right. Were you an employee or are you now?
A former employee.
Former employee.
I was let go on a medical discharge about a week ago, and I've kind of been running across the country. Oh man, I don't know where to start. They're gonna they'll triangulate on this position really soon.
So you can't spend a lot of time on the phone. So give us something quick.
Okay. Okay, what we're thinking of as aliens, Art, they're extra-dimensional beings that an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with. They are not what they claim to be. They have infiltrated a lot of aspects of the military establishment, particularly the Area 51. The disasters that are coming, the military, the government knows about them, and there's a lot of safe areas in this world that they could begin moving the population to now, Art.
But they're not doing anything.
They are not. They want the major population centers wiped out so that the few that are left will be more easily controllable.
Discharge.
I started getting...
Almost millions of fans was as puzzled as you are listening to this call right now. Breaking this down, this man allegedly tells Art that he's a former employee who worked at Area 51 and that he was let go on a medical discharge a week ago. He tells that he has been running across the country. He then states, quote-unquote, they, who we don't know who is he actually referring to here, but he tells that they are going to triangulate his position really soon. Then he starts talking about aliens. He goes on to say that aliens are extra-dimensional beings and that an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with them. He says that they are not what they claim to be, and that they have infiltrated many of the aspects of the military establishment, particularly the Area 51. He states that the government knows about all the disasters that are coming and that they are quiet about it because they want most of the population wiped out so that it is easy to control them. Then,
I started getting
strangely, the studio abruptly uses transition and then the radio show runs on a backup line. We hear the comments from Art Bell about the call, but we don't hear anything from the call ever again. No one knew who he was, where he was, why he was so sobbing and worried, and almost like as he was forced to talk, and what happened to him, and most importantly, why was the call abruptly cut when he was about to reveal something important? We are left clueless. Within days, this mysterious call was a main talk, and the show got a lot of attention through this, and this brought so many theories and conspiracies. Many of the opinions heavily weighed on the fact that this could be a real call from a former Area 51 employee, and people tried proving this is a real call from the fact that how eerily genuine the whole call was. A person in the comment section of a video also pointed out the fact that if you listen closely, we can hear his snot rolling back into his nose, which is something that would require good effort to pull off by a simple actor. And an actor or a prankster to go this far and be so committed to the role is so strange. Also, the frequent amount of stutters in his voice only made this call feel more genuine. However, this was not the only theory. People speculated that this could be a work of the government trying to see the reaction of the public to sensitive information like this. This theory was brought up with the conspiracy that the whole show was heavily controlled by the government, although none ever confirmed this or that we have any evidence of it. However, there is evidence that there was a syndicate control over the show from 1994, but we still do not have any evidence to prove any of this could be linked to this incident. And the last and the other major theory was that the whole thing just could have been a hoax. This theory was armed when this alleged caller called back the show again in 1998, which we will look through next. Later on, a person in the name of Brian J. Glass did come out to confess that it was him who called. Well, he does have books and comics written by him, so we could assume that he made this whole thing just to get attention from people to read his material. Well, I was able to find proof that he was a writer by that time. That brings us to the theory that this could have been a good hoax. But yet, we still do not get any enough evidence to prove this theory too. Amongst all this, I have to go with one theory, that is, that this whole thing sure was a hoax. Brian J. Glass appeared in many podcasts and videos to show how he pulled it off.
One of the coolest things about Brian is that he was this infamous prank caller on the Art Bell radio show. His voice has been sampled in countless songs. You may have even heard the call.
And it's kind of unfortunately timely that Art Bell passed, but you were the infamous Area 51 caller many, many years ago.
I was indeed. That was 20 years ago, and I'm the guy. Hello, Art. Yeah, they're not what they claim to be. That's it.
I would like to point out his appearance on this podcast, which he mentions everything in this, and he points out on how Art Bell took conspiracy theorists to the show, and here's Brian's take on it.
And he, if you had a tale to tell, you'd written a book, he took everyone seriously and gave them a forum to tell their thing.
But still, he has no idea why transmission went lost.
The believability of my performance has helped make it believable to a lot of people, but the thing that really hammered it home was the satellite outage.
Yeah.
That wasn't me. That wasn't Art Bell, to my knowledge. It was not pre-planned at his studio, to my knowledge.
Would just lose power mid-call.
Yeah, and the level of coincidence, it stretches the imagination to believe, was that really coincidence? And my own pocket theory that I've held for 20 years is, like, the night that it happened, I feared that what did I say that actually struck close to the truth?
However, this can simply be explained by the fact that this whole show was hosted by a home studio of Art Bell, and a sheer coincidence could have made the transmission to be ruptured.
And he was also unique in the fact that he broadcast out of his home, not a studio somewhere. And so all the phone lines came directly into his house. You didn't have to pass a call screener. Like, he sat in his office studio in his house and just randomly took calls. And if he took your call, bam, you were...
However, some still believe that this could have happened because the government got hold of the call being live and cut it out on purpose. However, this is kind of a far-fetched theory and cannot be taken into consideration without any proof. Well, it's what it is. Brian called the show and played a prank, which went too far than anyone expected.
What do you think made yours stick out to so many people?
The question you asked was what has made it so significant and stand out. One, I'd be foolish to say it was, not my acting. I was doing a stage play at the time called Asylum, where I played a guy in a mental institution, and I give a soliloquy near the end where it sounds a lot like the beginning of that Area 51 call. Gotcha. It's like calm that slowly degenerates into paranoia and fear and outrage. And
so you had a few weeks of practice leading into this call unexpectedly.
I had a year and a half of working on this show before I ever made that phone call, and proceeded to do the show for like another 5 years.
People did had a problem with why he took too long, but he answers this too.
That's you finally deciding to come out as the Area 50, because it took a while. It was like more recently than when the call actually happened.
Well, that's slightly misrepresenting there.
Okay.
I've never come out after all these years claiming to be the guy. I've been telling people I was the guy, like, from the night that it happened. My parents were the first to find out. Contacted Mike Oming the very next day, and we were on the phone for an hour. People in the comics industry, professionals in the comic industry, have known Brian of Brian and Mike. Brian's the Area 51 caller for 20 years.
Closing in with the subject, it is quite shocking to see how easily can a simple prank go so far. Still, there are many people who still believe this could be a real call from an Area 51 employee, while it is not their fault, because no videos of debunking this theory has gotten as much attention as how the calls itself got. Well, I hope people will learn from this that how easily humans can be fooled by good illusions. Even I myself took weeks to uncover the truth, and I was brought to light by a single comment from YouTube and one from Reddit. So it is always a good practice to check through something strange or shocking twice before believing it. Finally, I would like to point out this comment from the user JM555, who talked about on how so many people commented saying that this whole thing was real. Reading these comments, it's downright frightening to see how many younger people actually believe this is a real account of a real person calling with a real story. The millennial and the Gen Z generations are the most naive and gullible generations ever. That's clearly witnessed by reading the comments. In 2023, these generations are dumbed down beyond the point that anyone could ever have imagined. The fact that people can no longer tell the difference between entertainment and fictional story or even humor is utterly mind-blowing. How did we get so stupid? How did we get so naive and gullible? Unbelievable. Everyone knew it was, of course, a made-up story when the guy called in originally. I certainly did, and and so did everyone else. But then the guy came back and says it was a joke. And 25 years later, all these young people still believe it was a true story. Wow. It is really unbelievable on how easy it is to fool us now. On that note, stay sharp and clear, and we'll meet on another night with another mystery.